The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke moved through the air like ghosts. Broken weapons, burned armor, and fallen bodies covered the ground. Fires still burned on the black soil. The war between humans and the alien Harkon Empire had ended here, at least for now. Aristha, the alien warrior girl, lay motionless near a crashed gunship. Her silver armor was torn. Sparks blinked from the ruined circuits on her shoulder. Her long violet hair was dirty and covered in ash. Her glowing blue eyes were wide open, staring at the sky, but she could not move. Her legs, they were gone. A sharp explosion had ripped them apart just hours ago. Medbots had failed. Her people had no time. The commanders said she was too injured, too weak to help now. So they left her. She remembered the last words of her general. Cold, heartless. She has served well, but she is no longer of use. She screamed at them to stop. She reached out with her hands, but no one looked back. Now, she was alone. Broken, left in the ashes of war. Somewhere nearby, a human man walked slowly over the wreckage. His name was Damon Cross. He wore a worn-out battle jacket and carried a heavy energy rifle. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He used to be. But not now. Now he was just looking for spare parts, food or fuel, anything to stay alive. His face had an old scar over his right eyebrow. His eyes were tired but alert. He moved carefully, checking around corners and over bodies. This place was dangerous even after the fighting stopped. He climbed over a piece of broken steel, then froze. He saw her, an alien girl, barely alive, lying against the wreck of a transport ship. Her armor was glowing weakly. Her hands were red from dragging herself. She looked like she had crawled for hours before giving up. Their eyes met. Blue light met brown. Aristha narrowed her eyes. She hated humans. They had taken her world, killed her friends, and now one stood before her, watching her like a hunter. She lifted a rock with her one working arm and threw it at him. It bounced weakly and fell near his boot. Damon didn't move. He should have, turned around. He should have kept walking. She was an alien, an enemy, not his problem. But something inside him didn't let him go. He looked at her again. She was still young, brave, still breathing. But she had no legs, just burnt stumps wrapped in metal cloth. He lowered his rifle and stepped forward. "Don't," she growled weakly. "I will kill you. You already tried," he said calmly, nodding at the rock near his foot. She glared at him. Damon looked around. The place was still dangerous. Smoke from enemy patrols could be seen in the distance. Staying here too long meant death. But he couldn't leave her here. He dropped to one knee and opened his bag. "I've got water. Do you want some?" She didn't reply. Her pride wouldn't let her ask. He placed the water bottle next to her hand. After a moment, she grabbed it. Her hands shook as she drank. Then she coughed. "Why help me? You're a human." Damon looked at the sky. "Because I've seen enough. People die, and maybe I'm tired of doing nothing." He reached into his pack again and took out a soft roll of cloth and a small toolkit. He began cleaning her wounds. She didn't stop him. Her body was too weak now, but her voice still had fire. "I don't want your pity." "It's not pity," Damon said quietly. "It's a choice." A moment passed, then another. "I am Aristha, Second Blade of the Sky Legion." "I'm Damon," he said simply. "I'm no one." They sat in silence as the wind blew, ash across the ruined ground. She stared at the human who worked on her wounds. She expected him to run, to betray her, but he didn't. She saw the scar on his face, the way he worked. This man had seen war too. She didn't trust him, but she didn't want him to leave either. Suddenly, loud mechanical sounds echoed through the valley. Damon stood quickly, pulling out his rifle. Enemy drones, metal insects with red scanning eyes, moved across the horizon. "They're sweeping the field," he said. He looked at her. She could not move fast. If he stayed, they would both die. If he left, she was already dead. Damon took a deep breath, then he picked her up. Her body tensed in surprise. "Put me down. What are you doing?" "Saving both of us." "You'll die for me?" she asked. "I don't know yet," he replied, "but I won't leave you behind." As the drones passed overhead, the human and the paralyzed alien warrior disappeared into the smoke. Behind them, the battlefield remained still. But something had changed. For the first time, Aristha was not alone. And for the first time, Damon Cross had someone to fight for again. Smoke still danced in the sky behind them, but Damon didn't look back. He moved through the dead forest carrying Aristha on his back. Each step was heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the risk. She was still a soldier of the enemy. She had claws hidden in her gloves. She could try to kill him at any second, and yet she stayed silent. Damon felt the heat of her breath on his neck. Her fingers resting against his shoulder were cold and trembling. Her body was weak, but her spirit, unbroken. They had been walking for over an hour, hiding from drone scouts and old war traps. Damon's legs ached, but he didn't stop. Not yet. Finally, he found a broken bunker entrance half buried in the earth. Its metal doors had rusted, but the inside was dry. He kicked them open, stepped in, and gently laid her down on a dusty bench. "You brought me to a grave," she said, voice sharp. He lit a flare. The room glowed red. "No, I brought you to shelter." The bunker was old, maybe human, maybe alien. It didn't matter now. Damon cleared a space near the corner and pulled out his emergency heater. Warmth slowly filled the air. Aristha looked around with tired, judging eyes. Her pride hurt more than her wounds. She had never needed help. She was a warrior, strong, feared. Now she was lying broken, in the arms of a human. Worse, she had let him do it. "Why didn't you leave me there?" she asked. Damon didn't answer right away. He was opening a ration pack. "I've seen people left behind," he said finally. "I was one of them once. Doesn't feel right doing the same." "You're a fool. I've been called worse." He offered her a protein cube. She stared at it like it was poison. "It's food," he said. "Human food. Calories don't care what species you are." Reluctantly, she took it. The silence between them grew heavy again, until she broke it. "I still don't trust you." Damon raised an eyebrow. "Didn't ask you to." Hours passed. Outside, drones whirred faintly in the sky. The war might have paused, but the land was still dangerous. Inside the bunker, Aristha slept uneasily, dreaming of screams and fire. Damon watched her from across the room. She twitched in her sleep, her face twisting in pain. He didn't wake her. Instead, he opened a small hollow recorder from his pack. A family photo blinked to life. A woman, a child, a man who smiled like he'd never seen war. Damon stared at it for a long time, then turned it off. The next morning, Aristha woke up with a jolt. Her body ached. Her legs were gone, still gone. But her arms worked. Her mind was clear. She looked over. Damon was asleep, sitting against the wall with his rifle on his lap. She saw his bag nearby. Slowly, silently, she crawled to it. Her fingers opened the zipper. Inside, ammo, tools, medicine, and a small blade. She held it in her hand. She looked back at Damon. She could stab him now, take the gear, call for rescue. But her eyes caught something else. The hollow recorder. Curious, she tapped it. It turned on. The image of a small human girl appeared, laughing, running. The woman behind her smiled, waving to the camera. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Damon's eyes opened instantly. He grabbed his rifle, then froze. Their eyes met. She still had the knife in her hand, but she didn't move, and neither did he. "What's her name?" she asked quietly. Damon lowered his gun. Mara. She was my daughter. Was? He nodded. Your war or mine? She asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Aristha looked at the knife and dropped it. Later that day, Damon was outside, looking for herbs or tech scraps in the forest ruins. Aristha sat alone inside, staring at the metal wall, her fingers tracing a crack like a scar. She was starting to understand this human. Not just his actions, but his pain. He wasn't helping her because he thought she was weak. He was helping her because he once needed help too, and no one came. That night, while Damon was cooking something that smelled awful, Aristha said suddenly, "There's a city, deep in the mountains. My people left a vault there. Medicine. Tech. Power. Enough to build new legs." Damon looked at her. "Why tell me this now? Because if you're going to carry me, then you should know where we're going. You trust me now?" "No," she said flatly, "but I'm out of choices." As the fire crackled between them, the silence wasn't so heavy this time. Outside, the stars blinked above the broken world, and inside the bunker, two warriors, enemies by blood, were slowly becoming something neither of them expected. Not friends, not yet, but something close. The next morning, the wind howled through the forest ruins like a warning. Dry leaves flew across the broken earth. The sky was gray with ash clouds, and in the distance a low rumble echoed, metal wheels rolling, engines growling. The enemy patrols were back. Damon packed his gear quickly. He glanced at Aristha, who was awake now, gripping the sides of a stolen drone sled he had modified the night before. It wasn't perfect, but it would move. It had no weapons, just hover power and weak wheels. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she said, "but move anyway." Damon pushed the sled through the trees, his boots crunching dry twigs. Aristha sat with her back straight, her silver hair tied up, sharp eyes scanning every sound. She still wore the damaged armor of her people. The symbol of the Sky Legion burned but not broken. They moved in silence for an hour, careful to avoid drones above. But nothing stayed quiet for long in this world. Suddenly, a red laser beam swept across the dirt. "Down!" Damon shouted. He pushed the sled into a ditch and dove behind a rock. A flying recon drone hovered overhead, its scanner sweeping for life signs. Aristha reached to grab a blaster from Damon's pack, but he pulled her hand back. "No shots. It'll bring more," she growled. "Then what?" Damon picked up a stone and threw it far into the trees. The drone spun. It scanned the noise and moved away. They waited. 1 minute, 2, 10. Then they breathed again. Later that day, they found shelter in the remains of a crashed freighter, half buried in the sand. Damon dragged old wires and sheets to cover the hole they crawled into. Inside, it was cold and dark, but safe for now. Aristha leaned back against a metal wall. "Your drone sled is weak." "It wasn't made for royalty," Damon replied. "I'm not royalty." He raised an eyebrow. "Could have fooled me." She chuckled. Just once. A sound like old ice breaking. It surprised them both. Night fell. The silence was louder than noise. Aristha couldn't sleep. She stared at the ship's ceiling. The memories came again, louder in the dark. The blast, the pain, her soldiers leaving her behind, the weight of shame pressing on her chest. Then, the human's hands lifting her, carrying her through fire and ruin. Why? Why didn't he run? She looked at him now, sitting by a weak fire made from wires and dried moss. He cleaned an old blaster with focus. His hands were scarred, his movements careful. Not perfect, but practiced. "Do you regret saving me?" she asked softly. Damon didn't answer right away. He stared into the fire. "Some days," he whispered, "but not today." The next morning, they pushed onward. Dust storms rose in the valleys. The air was dry and rough. Damon wore a rag over his face. Aristha used her armor's breathing mask. They reached an old checkpoint, alien in design, half broken, blinking with weak blue light. We're near the edge of the southern border, Aristha said. Once we cross, we enter the no zone. No patrols, no law, just desert and ruins. Sounds like home, Damon muttered. They crossed into the no zone by afternoon, and that's when the ambush came. A blast rang out, too close. Damon threw himself over the sled. Bandits, not soldiers. Worse. Alien scavengers in patchwork armor rushed down the slope, screaming in broken voices. Half machine, half crazy. Outlaws who didn't care what species you were. They just wanted blood, tech, or trade. Damon pulled Aristha behind a broken wall. Weapons? She asked. One blaster. Half-charged. How many attackers? 5. Maybe 6. She reached into her boot, still attached to her armor, and pulled out a small blade. Her only weapon. Let's die loud then. No, Damon said. We run. He grabbed her sled's handle and jumped off the ledge. The sled flew down the hill, sparks flying. Damon ran beside it, holding tight, dodging rocks and blaster shots. Sand exploded behind them. One blast hit the sled. Its wheel snapped off. They flipped. Aristha hit the ground hard. Damon rolled, scraped his arms raw, then grabbed her again and pulled her into a cracked pipe nearby. They panted, pressed close in the narrow space. She looked at him, eyes wide. You could have left me. You said that yesterday, too. You're still here. And you're still heavy, he said, half smiling. She punched his shoulder lightly. I used to lead an army, she whispered. Now you're stuck with me. Maybe that's worse. They both laughed quietly, even as the bandits searched outside. But they didn't find them. Not yet. That night they slept under a broken satellite dish. Aristha looked at the stars. I never liked humans, she said. I never liked aliens. And now? I don't know, Damon replied. But you're not what I expected. She nodded slowly. Neither are you. And far above, a satellite blinked. Their escape was recorded. Their position was no longer secret. Someone was coming, and this time it wouldn't be bandits. The morning sun barely touched the cracked lands below. It was cold. The wind carried silence and something else. Eyes. Unseen. Watching eyes. Damon Cross didn't know it yet, but a signal had been sent during the night. A forgotten satellite, still loyal to the old command, had caught movement in a dead zone. Someone had triggered a beacon. A rescue? A warning? Neither. A hunt had begun. Damon sat with his back against a rusted wall, using a sharp tool to adjust the broken hover sled. He worked quietly, breathing slowly. His muscles ached, his hands were rough, and his shoulder bled where shrapnel had torn through his jacket during the ambush. Across from him, Aristha leaned against a broken steel pillar. Her face was pale, her lips dry. She noticed his bleeding arm. You're wounded, she said flatly. Damon didn't look up. It's nothing. You're slower. I'm still faster than you, she smirked. Not funny. I wasn't trying. The two sat in awkward silence for a while. The wind picked up, blowing dust over Damon's pack. Aristha pulled herself closer to him using her arms. Her lower body was wrapped in synthetic cloth. Her armor was useless now, more memory than protection. She reached toward his arm. Let me clean the wound, she said. Damon hesitated, then nodded. Aristha pulled a cloth from his bag, soaked it with water, and gently touched the torn skin. Damon winced. I thought warriors didn't flinch, she said. I flinch when beautiful aliens try to stab me with wet rags. She paused. Did he just call her beautiful? She looked away, pretending not to hear it. As she wrapped the wound, she asked, Why do you keep helping me? Damon stared ahead. You're not just a soldier anymore, he said. You're someone who was thrown away. I know how that feels. She looked at him, her voice quieter. Who threw you away? My commanders, my government, my people, he said. They sent us into a fight with no plan. When we didn't return, they moved on. And your family? Damon closed his eyes for a moment. Gone. Aristhea said nothing, but for the first time she truly saw him, not as a human, not as an enemy, but as a man with pain deeper than hers. Later they rested beneath a wrecked starship wing. Damon used solar strips to charge the hover sled. Aristhea traced symbols in the dust, old markings from her planet. She spoke without looking up. There was a boy once, back on my world. He wanted to join the Sky Legion. What happened? To him? He wasn't strong enough. They rejected him. He jumped into the training fire pit, hoping to prove his strength. She paused. Her voice cracked, just once. I pulled him out. But he never walked again. Damon looked at her, eyes soft. And you? I took his place in the army. She wiped away the markings. That was the day I decided. I would never be weak, never be pitied, never be carried. Damon stood and walked over. He knelt beside her. But you carried him, he said. She looked at him. And now I'm the one being carried. He didn't speak. Instead, he placed her hand over his wound. And now you carried me too. Suddenly the ground shook. A sound like thunder rolled in. Damon jumped up, grabbing his blaster. A vehicle, sleek, black, fast, appeared in the distance. No flags, no insignia. Mercenaries. Found us already, Damon muttered. He rushed to Aristhea, picked her up and threw her onto the sled. The solar charge was just enough. The sled buzzed to life. The vehicle behind them opened fire. Bullets and plasma beams scorched the air. Damon ran beside the sled, dodging blasts, returning fire. A shot grazed his leg. Another barely missed his head. They slid down a hill, then through a canyon of red rocks. We need shelter, Aristhea shouted. There! Damon pointed. A cave, narrow, jagged, but deep, lay ahead. He drove the sled straight into the darkness. Inside the cave, the air was cold and damp. Damon collapsed against the wall, chest heaving. Aristhea slid herself beside him, breathing hard. Outside, the vehicle stopped. Footsteps, voices, scanners. We'll be tracked again, she whispered. Damon nodded. We need to reach your vault. She looked down. It's a 2-day journey, through the ashen fields. Then we move tonight. Before leaving, Aristhea looked at Damon's leg wound. He limped now. You'll slow us down. I've carried you this far. Your turn? She raised an eyebrow. You wouldn't survive 5 minutes on my back. He smiled even through the pain. Then I'll crawl. As the sun set behind red clouds, the fugitive warrior and the broken soldier disappeared into the dust again. 2 wounded souls. 2 fading legends, but not yet defeated. Because some wounds may never heal, but they can still carry you forward. The night wind screamed through the ashen fields like a dying animal. Sharp black rocks rose from the ground like broken bones. The soil was gray and cracked, poisoned from old wars. No birds flew here. No trees grew. It was a place where only silence survived. But 2 figures moved through it. A hover sled hummed quietly across the rough surface. On it sat Aristhea, still without the use of her legs, but her eyes burned with fire again. One arm clutched the sled's controls, the other gripped a plasma pistol Damon had repaired for her. Beside her, Damon cross-limped with every step but didn't stop. His leg wound had reopened. Blood soaked through his boot. His breath was heavy, but his focus remained sharp. They had crossed one nightmare to reach another. The vault, Aristhea's last hope, was near. But so were the mercenaries. Around midnight, they took shelter beneath a fallen transport engine. Damon collapsed with a groan, clutching his leg. You should rest, Aristhea said, voice low. No time. You're slowing down. I'm still faster than death, she sighed, then crawled toward him, dragging her lower body. She pulled his foot into her lap and without asking began to clean the wound. He hissed in pain. Try not to scream, she said. It ruins your tough image. He managed a tired smile. You're enjoying this? Just a little. She wrapped the leg tightly with the last of their bandage cloth. Then, something unexpected happened. She looked at him. Not like an enemy, not like a soldier, but like a person. Someone worth saving. You carried me when I was broken, she said. Now let me carry your pain." The next day they moved slower. The landscape was endless, stone and dust, the sky a pale white blur. Damon used a walking stick now, and Erisatha had begun using her arms to steer the sled with precise strength. She guided them like a war chariot, her focus sharp, her heart racing. Then, on the horizon, it appeared. A mountain split in half by a forgotten battle. Between the cliffs stood a dark, massive door carved into the stone. The vault. Their goal. Their last hope, but something was wrong. The ground near the entrance was disturbed. Tracks, dust, heat signatures. "They found it before us," Damon said. Erisatha's face turned cold. "They're inside." Damon checked his pistol. "How many do you think?" "At least 5. Maybe more." "Good odds," he muttered. Erisatha looked at the side of the vault door. "There's a side shaft. We can crawl through it. A maintenance tunnel. Only one of us can fit." "You mean you," Damon said. "You'll go in alone." "I may not have legs," she said, "but I still have fire." She entered the tunnel alone. It was tight and dark. Her armor scraped against metal. Sparks fell on her arms. She pushed forward with raw strength, her hands bleeding. But she didn't stop. In her mind, she heard Damon's voice. "You're someone who was thrown away. I know how that feels." She gritted her teeth. "I'm not something to be thrown away. Not anymore." Inside the vault, mercenaries argued near the control console. They hadn't cracked the code. The vault required DNA access. Hers. Erisatha pulled herself silently through a vent above them, sweat pouring from her brow. Her heart pounded like a drum. She gripped her pistol tightly, waited, then dropped. She landed hard behind them and fired. One mercenary dropped instantly. Another screamed. The others turned and returned fire. She rolled behind a crate, biting her lip in pain. Then, the vault's main door exploded inward. Damon limped through the smoke, rifle in one hand, fury in his eyes. "You always show up late," Erisatha growled. "You're welcome." Together they fought side by side. Damon shot with precision, his movements slow but deadly. Erisatha moved like a crawling flame, burning through enemies with rage and skill. When the smoke cleared, they stood alone, breathing, bleeding, but alive. The center of the vault opened. Inside was a silver case. Erisatha reached it and opened the lid with shaking hands. Inside, limb replacement tech, custom prosthetics, wrapped in crystal. A miracle. Tears welled in her eyes. Damon stood beside her. "It's real," she whispered. "You can walk again." "No," she said. "I will rise again." That night, inside the vault, Damon sat beside her as she activated the nanobots. The machines hummed around her legs, forming shape, structure, and lifelike movement. She winced in pain, then moved her toes. A small step, but it felt like flying. She looked at Damon. "You didn't just save me," she said. "You helped me find hope in broken bones." He nodded. "And you helped me remember what it feels like to fight for something real." But outside the vault, a red light blinked on a helmet of a fallen mercenary. Someone was watching, and they were coming. The vault was quiet now. Only the sound of soft breathing and faint humming from the newly powered machines filled the dark chamber. Erisatha sat upright in the center of the glowing room. Her new legs, sleek black metal with pulsing blue, veins, shaped perfectly to her warrior form. They weren't just mechanical limbs, they were made for her, built from alien tech and bonded to her living cells. She moved her foot, then her knee, and finally she stood up. Her chest rose with a shaky breath. For a second, the world seemed to stop. Damon stood nearby, leaning against the wall, watching silently. A tired smile stretched across his face. "You did it," he said. Erisatha looked down at herself, her expression unreadable. "I don't feel like myself," she whispered. Damon stepped forward. "You don't have to feel like who you were. Maybe this is who you're meant to be now." But their moment of peace didn't last. A sharp alarm echoed from the console. A red warning blinked across the display. Unauthorized signal detected. Damon's smile faded. They found us. Aristha clenched her fists. Then we make our stand. Outside, a dropship sliced through the ash-covered sky. Its engines roared like a beast. It landed hard near the vault entrance, sending rocks flying. A dozen soldiers in black armor marched out. Elite hunters, not scavengers. Their commander, General Kale, stepped onto the ground. Tall, armored in crimson, face hidden by a jagged helmet. He had once been Aristha's leader. The same, man who left her to die. She was supposed to be gone, he growled. Now she rises like a ghost. He raised his hand. Kill them both. Bring me her head. Inside, Aristha opened the vault's ancient weapons chamber. Glowing artifacts blinked to life. Blasters, shields, energy bows, and something else. A tall, armored exoframe, built for a commander. She stepped inside it. It wrapped around her like a second skin. Her metal legs locked into place, her arms glowed with power. Damon stared at her, stunned. You look like a storm. She looked at him. And you look like someone who needs better armor. She tossed him a chest plate. Let's finish what we started. The battle was brutal. Enemies stormed the vault. Laser fire lit up the narrow halls. Damon fought like a ghost. Fast, silent, smart. He used shadows, walls, and broken tech to strike from angles they didn't expect. Aristha, now mobile and fierce, moved like a living weapon. Her frame enhanced her strength, her mind focused like never before. She didn't crawl anymore. She stood. She faced Kale's soldiers without flinching, without mercy. In the center hall, General Kale himself entered, his red armor glowing, his voice cold. I gave you purpose, he said to Aristha. You gave me abandonment, she replied. You were weak, broken. No. She stepped forward, eyes burning. I was left behind, but I'm stronger now. Not because of you. Because someone cared when you didn't. They fought. Kale's sword against her energy blades. Metal crashed against metal. Flames burst from the walls. Sparks flew. Damon tried to help, but another squad pulled him away and he disappeared into the lower levels, fighting to survive. Aristha was alone now. Blades locked. Sparks in her face. Breathing hard. Kale pushed her back. You still can't beat me. But then she stopped, stood tall, still, unmoving, breathing deeply. No, she said. I don't have to beat you. I just have to stand and not fall again. And then she reached behind her and pulled a memory chip from her suit. It glowed red. Kale's eyes widened. You wouldn't. This vault was always more than weapons. She threw the chip into the main core. A shockwave burst out, hitting. Kale throwing him back. Aristha fell to one knee, but her head was high. Below, Damon heard the explosion. He fought his way through the smoke and sprinted back to the main hall. There he found her, armor cracked, body bruised but alive. He rushed to her, kneeling beside her. You stood still, he said softly. I stood, for all who were left, behind. She looked at him, eyes full of something powerful. Not anger, not pride, but peace. The vault's systems were destroyed, but Kale's forces retreated. The message had been sent, loud and clear. She was not a shadow anymore. She was a warrior again, a survivor. That night the wind calmed. Aristha and Damon sat near a small fire outside the broken vault. Her new legs glowed faintly in the darkness. Where will we go now? He asked. She looked to the stars. Somewhere no one knows us. Somewhere we choose who we are. He nodded. Together? She didn't answer. She simply placed her hand over his. And for the first time, she didn't feel broken anymore. She felt whole. Because standing still didn't mean giving up. Sometimes it was the beginning of something new. The vault burned behind them. Its light glowed like a dying star as Aristha and Damon walked across the blackened field. The night was cold, but their hearts were steady. They had survived war. They had survived each other. And now, they were, walking toward something unknown. Aristha's new legs moved smoothly, matching Damon's limping pace. Her exo-armor was scorched, her blades cracked, but her eyes held a light stronger than ever before. Beside her, Damon walked with his rifle slung over one shoulder, his jacket torn, blood dried along his arm. They looked broken, but they were not defeated. High above them, the stars blinked quietly. But hidden among them was danger, the broadcast from the vault, the explosion, the fallen general, the awakened tech, had gone farther than they thought. Through satellites, through backdoor networks, through pirate systems. Now, the galaxy was watching. In a war chamber on the moon of Callistra, leaders of the old Harkon Empire argued over the feed. One of them shouted, "She's alive? That traitor should have died," another whispered. "And she's not alone, there's a human with her. A human with courage," the eldest one said. Silence followed. Then a command was given. "Bring them in, or destroy them." Back on the ground, Damon and Aristha reached the edge of a wide desert. They sat beside a dry riverbed, resting beneath an old, broken comms tower. Damon pulled out a ration bar, offered her half. She took it without a word. "We can't hide forever," he said. "I don't want to hide," she replied. "I want to change everything." He looked at her. "You think we can?" She stared at the horizon. 2 broken warriors, 2 lost names, 2 forgotten souls. Then she smiled softly. Yes. Suddenly the sky thundered. Not weather. Ships. Dozens. Harkon dropships. And behind them, human ships too. Confused, mixed fleets from both sides. A new force. A hunting alliance. For them, a voice boomed from a loudspeaker above. Aristha of the Sky Legion. "Damon Cross of Earth Resistance, you are to surrender immediately. You are considered a threat to peace." Aristha stood slowly. "No," she said aloud. "We are not a threat." She activated her exo-frame. "We are the proof. Peace is possible." Damon stepped beside her, gripping his rifle. "Want to run?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, more running." The first ship fired. A warning shot exploded near the riverbed. Damon and Aristha dove for cover, but then an unexpected signal interrupted the air. A glowing blue message appeared across every screen, every helmet, every cockpit. Aristha's voice. Recorded from the vault, her final speech. "To those who see me as weak, I stood when the world told me to crawl. To those who left me behind, I rose without you. And to those who think peace is weakness, come and see how strong it really is." The message stunned both armies. Then, something even stranger happened. A group of rogue pilots, humans and aliens, broke formation. They flew between the couple and the enemy ships. Their leader, a scar-faced alien woman, called out, "We heard your message, we choose you." One by one, ships began switching sides, refusing orders, joining the outcasts. Chaos erupted in the sky. Some ships retreated, others fought, but Aristha and Damon didn't move. They watched as the battle they started became something bigger than themselves, a rebirth. New rebellion, not just humans, not just aliens, but all who had ever been cast aside, forgotten, broken. By sunset, it was over. The enemy had fled. The rogue pilots landed, and the 2 who started it all stood in the center. Later, as fires cooled and tents were built, someone asked, "Who are you now?" Damon looked at Aristha. She answered, "We are the ones they left behind." Damon added, "And the ones who came back stronger." Weeks passed. The story spread, of the paralyzed alien warrior girl who stood again, of the human soldier who carried her across a dying world. They were no longer fugitives. They were symbols. Hope wore armor now. Hope had scars. And Hope walked with 2 names.